go. What's your full name?
Janie Paris Denny Qualbum.
And why did your parents name you that?
They named me after Mama's sister's husband's sister.
And did you or do you have a nickname?
No, I never had a nickname.
Okay. When and where were you born?
I was born at home in the log cabin.
The log cabin. Now, that was a different place than where you grew up? Is that correct?
Yes, it was on the bank in the front of that house, and Daddy built that house when I was 6.
Okay. On the bank, you mean it was closer to the creek, maybe?
No, it was closer to the road.
Oh, okay. Okay. How did your family come to live in this area?
I have no idea.
All right. Well, so you were born in a log cabin?
Yes.
Is that correct? How old were you when you moved into your family's house?
6.
And tell me about the house. How many rooms did it have? Did it have electricity, plumbing, and all that?
It had 5 rooms.
Did it have...
No, it did not have electricity.
Plumbing?
No.
So, that was added later, I guess.
The plumbing was added many years later. Electricity was added a good many years later.
Is there any special items in that house that you remember or that stand out?
Not really. We just never had enough room.
What is your earliest childhood memory?
Probably when I was 3 and my sister died.
Okay. What, if you would describe your family's personality, how would you do that?
Well, I had a loving mother and daddy. They cared very much for us. And I think my daddy thought that I was going to die like my sister did because I was sick and all my hair came out. And I had a fever for a long time. He took me to doctors everywhere, and they told him not to bring me back because they couldn't do nothing for me. So we had an old country doctor not far from the house, and Doc Hale. And Daddy went over there and begged him to come to see me. He said, well, he didn't have a license to be a doctor anymore, and he couldn't come. Daddy kept begging him till he gave Daddy a prescription. Daddy brought it home and gave it to me, and I got well.
Did you have family chores, and what were they?
Well, we always had chores when we grew up. Probably the first ones I remember is Daddy give us a dime to milk the cow, and then after we learned how to milk, we had to.
So you didn't get an allowance or anything?
No.
So did you make money milking cows, or how did you make money, and if so, how did you spend it? What did you spend it on?
No, we got no money. There wasn't any left after Daddy paid the bills.
What was your least favorite chore?
Milking cows.
What was school like for you as a child?
Well, I failed the first grade and skipped second. I don't really know why. Went on to third grade. I skipped second. I always liked school. I remember when I was in high school, we were living in town with Aunt Lydia and Nell Sewell, and I was sick one day. I was in 10th grade, and I called Miss Nell and told her I was sick. I didn't feel good. She sent a cab after me to school, and then when I got home, I cried so she called a cab and sent me back to school the same day.
What were your best and worst subjects?
Probably algebra. Aunt Lydia made me take algebra. That was the worst.
It was the worst?
And I hated algebra.
What was your best?
English.
English. Okay. Did you do any school activities, sports or anything like that in high school or anything?
No.
Okay. When you think about, let's take the high school years, what kind of fads do you think about? Like hairstyles, clothes, music?
I don't know. I went to school a half a day for 2 years and worked half a day, and then worked on Saturday. So I didn't have much other time.
Was religion important growing up, and tell me about that?
Yes, Aunt Lydia always took us to church. Mother and Daddy went for a long time. In fact, the day Daddy died, he told me when I come home not to forget him. We had a meeting running that week. He's going to church. And he died before I come home and got ready and went back after him.
Tell me about, did the family eat together, and what was it like when you did?
Yes, we always ate together.
Tell me about it.
Well, we all had breakfast together. We all had lunch together. Mom always cooked lunch. And at night, we usually had leftovers if we ate anything at night. We tried to curb our appetite so it wouldn't get so heavy. Mama had 2 sisters. It was real heavy, and I was always scared to death I'd be heavy.
What were your favorite foods?
Probably anything sweet.
Did your family have any special traditions or celebrations?
No, not back then they didn't, that I remember.
Someone's mentioned something about a watermelon party.
Oh, Daddy always had watermelons, and he'd let us have a party when the watermelons came in.
Well, tell me about that. What was the watermelon
we'd have kids parked a mile up the road with cars would be parked everywhere. And Daddy was the life of the party. He'd get out and take them snipe hunting, and that was pour a glass of water in their face. See stars. He was always right there seeing that everybody was behaving.
I can see that. Okay. Who is the oldest relative you can remember, and what do you remember about them?
Living?
Well, just who you remembered, yeah. Or stories about people.
My grandmother, my daddy's mother.
And what was her name?
Dixie.
Okay.
She was always making apple pies, and she'd stack them in stacks and then cut them like cake. We'd always got hungry for something sweet. We'd go to Granny's.
You remember any stories about any relatives that you might have been too young to know?
I heard stories about my grandfather. He died when my daddy was 9. That's about all.
Anything comes to mind that you'd want to share? And if not, that's okay too. What stories have come down to you about your parents or grandparents that you'd like to pass along?
Well, there's a lot of stories. A lot of it was hearsay. I didn't pay much attention to it.
All right. Are there any special heirlooms, photos, or Bibles that have been passed down in your family?
No, not that I know of.
Tell me about how you felt when you found out you were going to be a parent for the first time.
Excited. But David was a handful. He cried for 9 months, 24/7. That was a harrowing experience.
And how did you choose your children's names?
You know, I don't remember how I chose any of them's name, really. Just picked it out, I guess.
What are your proudest moments as a parent?
When Greg finished college. And Teresa worked, and she had Chris, and she worked 30 hours a week and went to school and took care of Chris. I was proud of her too.
How did you meet your spouses?
I met Arlen in class in the 9th grade. Jack and I finished high school together, and his wife had died and Arlen had died, and he come back to a class reunion and we started seeing each other.
What was your profession and how did you choose it?
I was an optical mechanic, and I did book work, and I made glasses and dispensed glasses, and I really didn't choose it. It just fell in my lap. I went to work there in high school and worked a half a day the last 2 years of high school. And then the girl that was the main one at the office married and moved to out of town, so then the job became mine. And I worked there 40 years.
40?
Mm-hmm.
Of all the things that you've learned from your parents, what do you feel was the most valuable?
Well, my mother and Daddy both had a lot of values. My daddy, he never approved of anybody stealing anything, and the kids wasn't allowed to ever even think about stealing anything. The day he died, he'd taken a load of watermelons to work. He worked for the road department, and some people had stolen his watermelons, and he was mad. He said if they'd have asked me for them, I'd have given them to them. But he was just mad because they stole them.
What accomplishments are you most proud of?
Of my accomplishments?
Yes.
I don't know. I've just always tried to work and take care of the kids and do things right. And Alicia.
Okay. What is the one thing you most want people to remember about you?
Well, my love for the 4 children.
And what else? Is there anything else you'd like folks to know about you that they don't know?
They probably know everything because I tell them everything.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we're done. Thank you, Janie.